David Boswell didn't actually aspire to be a darkroom technician. He wanted to be Zorro, or a magician, then a filmmaker, or a photographer, or a cartoonist. But by 23, David Boswell was a darkroom technician. This is where David worked, and this was their biggest client, which meant this is what he printed pictures of day after day, after day, after day, after day. On a cold night in September, he returned home to a tiny apartment so he could sit at his desk alone with his unfinished commissions and unpaid bills. At exactly 7:06 p.m., he put pen to paper and drew Reed Fleming, the world's toughest milkman.
Who the hell's Reed Fleming?
Reed Fleming, first I didn't like him so much.
Well, he's repulsive.
One of the best.
He isn't a superhero. He isn't a do-gooder. He isn't someone who saves the day.
Cracks me up.
He's obnoxious and cruel and mean.
It just made me laugh. It had a real...
I don't know if Homer would have been bald if I hadn't seen Reed Fleming.
It was sort of an instant reaction.
It was unlike anything I'd ever seen.
It was just a brilliant concept.
How can you not love anything? You look at it the first time and he's saying, I thought I told you to shut up.
I thought I told you to shut up.
I thought I told you to shut up.
I thought I told you to shut up. I thought I told you to shut up.
I thought I told you to shut up.
We're busy filming, shut up.
Irreverent, unstoppable, defiant. Reed Fleming is what David Boswell was born to do.
Cut! The character was intended only to be a single page. He was a one-note character who was totally explained on that first page. That's it. That's the character. That's all there is. There doesn't need to be any more. And I still believe that.
The first read was kind of this is a one-off. It's just got this joke, I'll piss on her flowers, ha, 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 what a crude guy.
And I was getting people saying, you gotta do more of these, you know? Is there gonna be another, when's the next Reed Fleming? The logical next step was to package it as a comic book and get a wider audience. And I had 10,000 copies printed with no distribution set up, which is really ass backwards.
Ass backwards here meaning guaranteed bankruptcy. But an issue from the first run made it to Ron Turner, head of the infamous Last Gasp, an alternative publisher willing to take a chance. After reading the issue, Ron ordered 500.
Well, we sold out. We're always looking for good new things that we'd never heard of, and that, of course, came in like a load of bricks on top of a bare toe.
And then a short time later, he ordered like 1,000, and then 2,000.
Everybody loved it immediately. And we kept selling and selling and selling them.
78 cents or I piss on your flowers. It just was immediately the talk of the town.
By word of mouth, Reed spread like a virus within the underground comics world.
I read them, and I kind of went, I'm not sure that I get this.
You always had to work with Reed. There's a kind of hilarity, but it's kind of what hits you in the back of the head on second thought.
And I had to read them a second time and went, this is pretty cool.
It's about having a horrible job and doing whatever you can to make life interesting for yourself.
I think Reed Fleming just speaks to anybody who's had a crappy boss, which is all of us.
He does, everything we would like to do, he just goes ahead and does it.
Suddenly, Reed Fleming was a mountain. Literally, he was a 3-hour-long punk rock opera. Reed Fleming! He was on Matt Groening's list of 100 favorite things.
If you're going to ask me about underground comics, yes, I do know.
The original Undergrounds were more about just being shocking. Reed, David does something that those guys don't do.
I don't call many people geniuses, but I actually think Boswell is one.
First of all, I love the stories. It got better and better as the comics went on. I mean, one of the things I love about David Boswell's stuff is that it's a combination of an exquisite draftsmanship and incredible naivete.
Well, Reed Fleming, to me, wasn't counterculture. He was culture, but it's also completely crazy.
The world's toughest milkman had arrived, and everybody wanted a piece of him.
I thought I told you to shut up. I thought I told you to shut up. I thought I told you to shut up. I thought I told you to shut up.
Reed Fleming was going places.
I understand this might be becoming a movie. Is that true?
It's a possibility. It could happen this year. Several producers would like to make a Reed Fleming movie. Dave Thomas of SCTV would like to play the Mad Milkman.
I thought it was hilarious. I wrote a script. They threw it out. They never did a damn thing with it.
Wait, so this is where it gets a little complicated. When Hollywood wants your creative property, you have one of two choices: to option or sell the film rights. Optioning pays less up front, but is temporary and partial. Selling outright means you forfeit the rights entirely. But it's a much bigger payday. Much more enticing if you're a Canadian cartoonist trying to use a cult property to provide for your growing family.
But I mean, I don't know what happened with them at Warner's. I mean, I know that it was in active development there.
I first met Reed Fleming when two writer-producers brought me the comic book, Loeb and Weissman.
We were making movies like Teen Wolf and Commando.
We were pretty hot as writers at the time.
Here was this chance to make this movie.
This is David's ticket to Hollywood, the hotel he stayed in, and the phone in the bathroom.
Well, going to Hollywood was a big thrill.
Very wide-eyed with a camera, taking pictures of everybody.
They were really enthusiastic about David, and they wanted David to do the script.
I mean, that was the fun of it, was David's first draft.
I thought it was one of the funniest, most ridiculous things I've ever read.
This is the screenplay David wrote, which of course we can't show you.
I think it was Robin Williams was probably the first person we ever talked about doing it.
Jack Nicholson.
Bob Hoskins.
John Lovitz.
Jim Belushi.
Bill Murray.
These were the fruit baskets left at David's door, the meals he was treated to, the parties he attended.
I have a budget, I have a board, we had a start date.
We really believed in Reed Fleming. It sounds crazy, but we did.
And I recollect Loeb one night after a restaurant meal going to the car and him just saying, "They're gonna make it. I just know they're gonna make it."
The stars lined up. The end was in sight. As a last formality, the script was sent to the head of the studio.
I was told he didn't get it.
And it wasn't like there was a conversation. It was like suddenly we went from green light, full speed ahead, to dead.
I know they read the script. I know they looked at the comic book. But I don't know if they pictured what it could be.
It was just felt very counterculture to the people, to the bosses, you know?
You know, it went further up the food chain and they got cold feet.
Hollywood, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare, you know?
Reed relaxed back into obscurity. Over the years, David fielded countless proposals from actors, producers, and directors, myself included.
I would probably sell my mother for a chance to play Reed Fleming.
I don't see how they can improve on what David's already done.
Now, has he considered doing it in an animated form?
Do they own all rights at Warner's?
He couldn't? Why?
All I really know is that, you know, he took some money up front because he needed some cash.
As far as I know, it's locked in the vault at Warner Brothers, and there it will stay.
One of the worst days of my life was to realize that I don't own the rights to my own comic book. No matter who wants it, it's not for sale.
Because they know how good it is deep down, there's something there. They're scared that, okay, if I let it go, then what's going to happen is that it's going to go be a big success.
They won't sell it because someone in there knows the power of this piece, which is quite encouraging and should be to the lovers and fans of Reed Fleming.
Eventually, the calls stopped. David Boswell, he never actually aspired to become a broke cartoonist. But 30 years after Hollywood came knocking, David Boswell is a broke cartoonist.
Hardly anybody makes a living at doing these things.
I have no idea how he handles it. I have no idea how he survived this long.
It's quite possible that he goes home and has gut-wrenching moments of grief behind a closed door.
I don't think he worries that much. And if he does, he hides it very well.
David's one of those guys who's underappreciated and underacknowledged.
I think the only reason why David Boswell isn't more widely recognized for the genius that he is that the movie of Reed Fleming never happened.
I get asked a lot about the film, exactly 10 years from the creation of Reed. I was in Hollywood to write a screenplay for a major studio. A movie is a potential. It might or might not happen. Like a lot of things in life might not happen. You sort of hope they do, but if they don't, you go on living. The key to life is always having something to look forward to. And I've got a wonderful family. In a way, that's my best work, I think. The fans might not agree, but they don't know my kids. And that's what I regret, not being able to do more for my own family.
At the end of the day, anybody who creates something that is unique and wonderful deserves to have it shown to a wider audience.
First of all, Reed Fleming is an original character. He's hilarious. Everybody loves him who knows about him. So yes, there should be a Reed Fleming movie, definitely.
I still think that movie works.
I've been convinced that it's just a matter of time.
Right now in cinema, it's comic book characters. Granted, they're superheroes, wish fulfillment heroes. So I think it's probably time for a non-wish fulfillment hero.
But I think in the climate you're talking about of franchise films, that's the best time to do a weird, smaller film.
What could be a better franchise than a whole series of movies?
It's Reed Fleming, the world's toughest milkman. That's Reed Fleming. No one can do what he can when he looks you in the eye and says, I thought I told you to shut up.